How's it going, everyone? Let's talk stats and builds. So, for today's video, I figured I'd break down basically how the stats and everything in the game works. Understand that I don't have my builds fully fleshed out yet. I'm currently still working on them. But I, for the most part, know exactly what I'm putting on each character that I'm going to be talking about. So the most important thing to understand whenever we're talking about how you want to gear up your characters is to understand the role they play within your party. Take, for instance, Beidou. She's my main on-the-field DPS. You could also use pretty much the same role you put Dillick in. With Beidou, you want weapons, therefore, that are helping raise her overall DPS. So we have her with the Serpent Spine. It's giving her base attack as well as crit rate, and the effect of Wave Splitter is also giving more damage to her while she's on the field. For artifacts, you want stuff that's gonna also increase her attack. For the most part, you want attack percentage on everything. Now, on Flower, you can only get HP as the main stat. And on the Feather, you can only get base attack as the main stat. And when it comes to leveling, you should level the Feather first. And then kind of throw out the levels to other things. You want set bonuses that also give attack. Right now, the only set bonus I have active on my Beidou is a 2-set piece for gladiators that is giving her plus 18% attack. I want to get that to a 4-set piece. I just don't have the pieces to do that. I'm missing one, and then she'll have the 4-set piece bonus. I also am looking at her talents. Whenever we look at her talents, you can see her stuff scales off of damage. It says, accumulate the power of lightning. Beidou swings her blade forward, dealing electro damage. So anything that ups her damage ups the abilities of the character. So as a main DPS, we're wanting to fill her out with attack and attack percentage, and then follow it up with crit and crit rate. In that kind of order. Attack percentage technically takes the most influential amount. You definitely want attack percentage as the main stat, and then attack as a secondary stat. And if you can get crit rate on and whatnot, it's great. This Berserker's piece isn't the best because it's mostly filling out defense, and we don't need defense. We also don't want stuff like this. This is the only 5-star gladiators piece I have, and it's HP percentage. We don't need this on our frontline DPS fighter. So that is a piece that needs to be replaced on Beidou. What we want is this. Attack percentage and attack stats as a follow-up. Like what I have here on the Feather. It's giving me base attack and attack percentage. Then we follow up with crit rate and crit percentage. Not every character gets a lot for crit rate. That's fine. But it's more important to have that than something like Elemental Mastery. To explain how Elementary Mastery works, they have a chance for their element to combine with another person's element and create a boost of damage. For instance, Beidou is an electric user. So when she uses her electric and it hits something with ice, it causes an effect called Superconduct, which lowers the defenses of the enemy. On your support classes, typically you want your Elementary Mastery to be higher, because you'll swap them in, they'll do their attack, and it'll combine with the effect that you already have on the enemy, thus creating a damage burst. See, my Beidou only has an Elemental Mastery of 35. But if I go down to my Jingling here, she has an Elemental Mastery of 276. So whenever I'm swapping her in to throw out her little teddy bear, it's doing a lot more damage. Same thing with, like, my Venti. He's not very leveled, but Elemental Mastery is something I'm going to focus on. But do not focus on Elemental Mastery over attack. You want Elemental Mastery to raise up the attack. It's based on percentages. It adds a certain percentage onto the damage. You can see increases damage caused by overload, superconduct, electrocharge, shattered, and swirl by 60%. So if your damage is already low, 60% plus that, it's not a lot, you know? To give you an example, let's say you have one character that's doing 100 damage, one character that's doing 10 damage. You add 60% onto the person that has 10 damage, now they're doing 16 damage. You add 60% onto the person doing 100 damage, they're doing 160. So you want to base the attack and then raise it up with elemental mastery. But attack should be your main focus. So how we do that is by having the substats make up for that. My main focus is attack, but then you can see I have elemental mastery as a substat, which will help boost it up. And certain pieces will give you more as a set bonus, which is what you're more looking for than to have your stat, say this attack percentage, be taken away by getting a elemental mastery substat. So that's kind of the basic rules to look for. There are exceptions, of course, to these rules, such as Barbara. Barbara's main role is to not do damage. Her main role is to heal your characters. As such, HP percentage is the main thing to go for, and HP boosting items. So I have on her stuff that helps her healing. I have the Maiden set, which increases her healing effectiveness by 15%. I have the Exile set, which makes her abilities recharge by 25%. Items I have either have a healing bonus or an HP bonus. And of course, the Feather's always going to have attack. But the more items I can get like this to fill on her, you know, I might give her that, I honestly should probably give her this Gladiator's Cup, just because it's such a huge bonus to her HP, which is a huge bonus to her healing. That's why also Barbara's best weapon is the Thrilling Tales. It's a book that has a great effect, the Legacy effect, where it boosts your character's attack, but it also has HP percentage as a substat. And I think it's the only book that does that. And there are other characters that you have to look at for their build. Some characters want to crit more than Beidou does. Beidou's not all that big of a crit dealer. I give her this Serpent Spine for crit damage, but that's just because it's a really great sword in general, and it just happens to have the crit damage. But maybe somebody more like Razor, who has built-in crit damage into his kit. If you look at his attributes, he already has a base crit damage percentage of 50%. I don't have anything that's boosting that. So if I get his crit rate up, he's doing more damage by getting that crit rate up. So somebody like Razor really needs a Serpent Spine. Other characters like Amber, even though she's useless, she needs HP, because that's what her little doll there is built off of. It's built off of her HP. If we go and look at her talents and look at the doll, Baron's HP scales with Amber's max HP. So if you don't build HP on Amber and you throw out that doll, it's going to get one shot and it won't blow up and do anything for you. With Noelle, you're wanting to build defense. She's so shy. You're wanting to build defense the entire time, because with Noelle, she heals based off of her defense stat. So knowing what each character's role is will help you decide what you're wanting to build on them. But you're always wanting to build attack and then focus out the substat. You know, with Beidou, I'm wanting to focus on attack and attack percentage the whole way. And if I can give her a little bit of bonuses beyond that, that's great. But she is a frontline damage dealing attacker. Noelle is a backline healer. Zhongling is a support DPS that throws out her bear. Sucrose is a support DPS that throws out Whirlwind. Venti is a support DPS. You know, as long as I know the roles they have, I can look at the gear that I'm giving them and make sure it's weapons that are boosting them. You know, Venti's best bow is stringless because it's boosting up his elemental skill and elemental burst damage, which is all he's doing. He's not coming out and firing his bow. He's coming out using his Q, using his E, and getting the hell off the screen so my Diluc can actually do some work. And getting these builds right it's not something you're gonna do right away. These builds take time. You have to farm up the, you know, the relics. You have to farm up their weapon. Right now my Dillick has the worst weapon I could possibly give him because I don't have anything better to give him. I'm working on getting him, you know, something that'll work better for him. So that's about all this video has to say. When you are farming up relics, make sure they have, I would say, unless you're building something like a barber, make sure they have an attack as their main stat. And then while you're leveling up their substats, if they get defense, don't trash it right away, but look to replace it with something that has, you know, what you're using that character for. Typically, Genshin Impact, you don't need defense. If you're dodging right, you won't be hit. If you're not dodging right, I recommend learning how to dodge. That's it for this. I will have a more advanced guide coming out, if not tomorrow, then the next day. That's going over LML reactions and how best to pull them off, you know, what they mean. Because some people are confused. They think, oh, that person's an ice person, I'm a water person, I can't do anything to them. It's not true. You should be using another character to help, but your water person can still do something against an ice character. And your fire person can still do something against water. So that's all I gotta say. I'll see you guys in the next video.